Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story about one decision, a single choice on a single night that sent these devastating ripples through an entire community, but also, amazingly, led to an incredible act of grace.
So, the whole story really kicks off with these words from a father. He's comparing life to a game of golf, which is just such a perfect metaphor for what's about to happen. One bad swing, one wrong move, and you're way off course. All right, let's set the scene. Meet Kyle. He just graduated high school. He's got this great soccer scholarship, a best friend named Brent. Their whole lives are stretched out in front of them, just full of potential. And it's a scene we can all picture, right? Friends just wanting to hang out and have fun one last time before college. You feel kind of indestructible at that age. The whole night has that classic end of summer vibe where anything seems possible. And this right here, this is the moment, the exact point of temptation. It's just these simple, persuasive words from his friend that really kick off the whole tragedy, convincing Kyle to go to a party he was already a little hesitant about. And here it is. We've arrived at the final, crucial bad decision in a whole chain of them. It's that moment where, pride and that feeling of being invincible just take over. Even though he's had a few drinks, even though his friends are worried, Kyle just insists, I'm fine.
So now, we see what happens next. The immediate, devastating aftermath. Because a decision like that, well, it's never just a stone that drops into a pond by itself. It always creates waves.
The consequence is just so swift and absolute. In one split second, a night of fun and celebration just turns into an absolute nightmare. Kyle survives, but the life he knew a few hours ago, it's gone. And you can just see how far that impact spread. I mean, it went way beyond just one person. It was like a shockwave. Two families were completely shattered. A friend's military trauma was triggered by the news. And this shadow of judgment just fell over the whole town. So this horrible tragedy forces these two families to face their grief and their faith in profoundly different ways. It really pushes them to their absolute limits. And this is where the story gets really, really intense. You see this incredible contrast between anger and grace. On one side, you have Kyle's own dad, who's a pastor, by the way, just condemning him. But on the other side, you have Brent's mom, who shows up at Kyle's hospital bed to pray for him. This huge difference in how they react becomes the central conflict of the story. So on top of all this emotional turmoil, the legal system kicks in. Kyle is now facing vehicular manslaughter charges, and his entire future is just hanging in the balance. We're talking about the very real possibility of prison time. Just when everything seems to be pointing in one direction, when condemnation feels almost certain, the story takes this unbelievable turn. The one person with every single reason to demand justice decides to go down a completely different path.
It's Mrs. Wentworth, the mother of the victim, who stands up in court. And instead of anger, she offers compassion. She doesn't see a criminal. She sees a teenager who made a terrible, life-altering mistake.
And with these words, wow, this is the emotional climax of the entire story. She isn't asking for vengeance for her son. She is asking the judge to give a second chance to the friend who was responsible for his death. The judge, who you can tell is just visibly moved by this incredible act of forgiveness, sentences Kyle not to prison, but to 200 hours of community service. This plea completely changes the course of Kyle's future. And of course, everyone wants to know why. Why would she do that? Her answer reveals this incredible depth of faith. She basically frames her forgiveness as a reflection of her own beliefs about sacrifice and grace. It's just a truly radical perspective, especially when you consider what she's lost. So, Kyle gets this unbelievable second chance. But that brings up a huge question. What do you do now? How do you even begin to repay a debt like that? His punishment is literally transformed into a purpose. Instead of just serving time, his job now is to try and prevent other people from making the exact same mistake he did. His sentence becomes his mission. He even starts using his father's words. The same words that were once a source of so much pain and condemnation as a powerful lesson for others. He's owning his story, turning his deepest shame into a tool to help people. So you can really see his path to atonement taking shape in these 3 steps. First, he tells his story, raw and honest.
Second, he finds a new purpose in helping other young people. And third, he starts that long, daily struggle to try and forgive himself.
And this whole journey, it leads to this incredibly powerful reconciliation with his father. The same man who once told him, "You killed him," now looks at his son and finally sees someone he can be proud of. The family's healing can finally begin. And that's where the story leaves us. It's this stark reminder that one decision can absolutely shatter a life. But it's also this profound example of how grace can help rebuild one. Their tragedy becomes a challenge for all of us, really, making you stop and think.